Welcome everyone. Yep, so I'm going to talk to you about how to drive sales using Google Performance Max and shopping. There's lots of insights to go through. So bear with me a minute. Okay, yeah, so a bit about me. I'm paid media account director at Annika Digital. I've been here about 1.4 years. I don't know why I put 1.4, but maybe it's indicative of the fact that I'm in paid advertising and I'm used to decimal conversions and all that. I've got lots of agency experience, working with a kind of wide range of clients, lots of e-commerce, but also lead gen. So I've done garden furniture, dust extraction. If there's anyone from a dust extraction company, I'm not going to judge you. It's a useful thing. So yeah, you typically work with Google Ads, Microsoft Ads, and a little bit of Meta and Pinterest. I have done some Spotify as well and programmatic, but yeah, I've managed budgets from £500 up to kind of six figures. So yeah, they're all a different challenge. It depends on the budget. And I suppose an interesting fact about me is I'm a twin and I also have twins. So yeah, that's entertaining. Well, certainly they keep me entertained. So enough about me, a bit about Annika Digital. So we're a full service marketing agency, as you may well know. So we do strategy. So we'll kind of at the outset, we'll, take a look at your site, take a look at your analytics, talk to you about what you're doing, and then just set the roadmap. We've got paid social experts. We do a little bit of organic social as well. And then search is still a massive part. I wouldn't recommend just doing paid advertising. It's always good to do search and paid. You're not dependent on just your credit card and Google for your sales. Then there are other advertising platforms as well. So obviously shopping is kind of one of my specialist areas. We've got other specialists in the company. So it's whether it's Google ads or Meta catalog ads, we really are quite good at that. And then of course we do the training as well, and webinars is part of that. So that's Annika in a nutshell. I'm sure that there's a lot more to it as well, but I'll leave it there. So what we're going to cover today is what's been happening recently. I think it's always interesting in digital marketing. It's just such a fast-paced, constant change. There's always something new coming up. So I'm just going to cover some things that I think are fairly significant that have happened this year, and there's more change ahead. It's it keeps us entertained. What's coming next, we don't know. And then the PMax shopping problem. So there's the, how do you set the campaigns up? What happens? I'm always thinking, is there a better way to do it? So it's just a case of trying to give you some suggestions of what the problems are and how you might be able to solve them. So that's going to be covered in the smarter product grouping session. And then I think a lot of advertisers really do get focused on ROAS, which is return on ad spend. So yeah, sometimes you can get dialed in on that, thinking I need this level of profit, and that can limit your kind of longer term growth or new customer acquisition. And then there'll just be a wrap up of what we've covered, and feel free to fire any questions over after that. So what's happened recently? Yeah, lots. I think there's been quite some seismic things this year. One of them is not so seismic yet, but I know the rumbling conversation about generative AI and ChatGPT it's becoming louder and louder. I think if I've probably got one recommendation is just get on there right now and try and learn how things work. So in the AI space, the Google launched the Gemini app this month. Last month. I think I've not used it yet, but yeah, probably download it and see what it can do. So basically, you can chat and it'll help you write and planning and learning. Is the official line from Google. So it's just a different way of searching and engaging and getting results. So I thought I kind of used ChatGPT to create the images within my slide decks, and it's not without problems, is it? So you can see on the right hand side, I tried to get it to do a signpost with generative search and Google search, but it kept spelling generative wrong, and I just kept saying, "Can you do it again? Spell it correct." And then I did it again, and it decided to kind of, instead of dropping the R, it just add generative search. So there's a way to go, but in terms of actually creating something, it's it's pretty amazing starting point. You just need to kind of humans to kind of cross-check everything and improve it, really. So the biggest change, I think, the most not trauma, but disruption, I would say, was the consent mode v2 rollout in March. So that was, if you had a cookie pop up on your site, you had to make sure that all of the tags that you had fired consent choices to avoid any data loss in Google Ads, and also to comply with the regulations of the EEA and the EU, UK. If you don't do this, you'll end up losing track visitors. But yeah, so what we've seen in accounts is a little bit of loss of data, because more sites are now compliant and only firing consent choices based on what the users are doing. I think there's still websites out there with no cookie consent at all. So you really need, if you are one of those people, you really need to get your house in order, I'd say. But I have to say the pop-ups, I do find them really annoying, which is where the ChatGPT graphic has come from. And then if you've been paying attention, if you've got time, it's still worth watching, or if you really are a bit short time, you can kind of read blogs on what happened. But Google had their Marketing Live event, and there was lots of announcements given. One of the things that stood out for me was the AI creative asset production for Performance Max campaigns. I've tried it out already. You can, in Google Merchant Center Next, which is the new version, you can take some of your products and use chat prompt to add backgrounds in. So that's quite good. And then the profit optimization, which is highlighted in green, is something I'm really interested in. I've been trying to do it without Google Performance Max official things for a while, and I'm really interested to see where that's going to take us. And then obviously we've got AI enhanced shopping ads. AI features quite heavily on the list. If you want to see more detail on this, just kind of visit various blogs, but the WordStream one's quite concise, so I'll put the link in the bottom. And then the AI image on the right, look at the spellings. It seems to just smudge things. I know it might be the magnifying glass effect, but I just like to call it out because I think I'm hopefully not got as many spelling mistakes on one slide as there is in that image. So GA3 data, this hasn't actually happened yet, but if you're in marketing, you have a website, any data from kind of prior to last year, depending on when you adopted GA4, it's going to get deleted forever on the 1st of July. So that's kind of necessitated a bit of a scramble to store the data. So there's various options. You can use Google Sheets if you're really into coding and to use BigQuery, you can store it in there. But I'd say act now if you haven't already, and if you need help, just kind of reach out, and hopefully you can get it done. So the PMax shopping problems. So PMax is Performance Max. I've tried to avoid the acronyms, but old habits die hard. There's quite a few things that annoy me, and kind of limitations with the platform and the recommendations. I don't know if you've been into an account. There's always the recommendation to lower the ROAS. This one here is quite interesting, which I've not seen very often. Is that my current ROAS is 700%. And Google's saying if I lower it to 490, I can spend £620 more and still get the same return on ad spend. So, but sometimes you'll see this within the account, and it will literally just show your return on ad spend plummeting, but the recommendation is still there. So you'll spend more and basically eat into your profit, which is fine, but Google doesn't understand your kind of business. So yeah, that's one of the things that annoys me. And then also you've got with shopping campaigns and Performance Max, you've got products. So if you've got like 8,000 products in your catalog, you'll find that if you do the analysis, and it's scarily true, some accounts of 20% of products will drive 80% of sales. Some accounts 10%, all of sales. But you can see that Google will really dine out on the products that are going to convert. And I suppose in a way that's its way of achieving your return on ad spend target. But you're left with all these other products that never get a lock in, and some of them will just get one or two clicks each. But if you've got 7,000 products with 1 or 2 clicks each, and they're spending and they don't convert, or they don't get the chance to convert, then that really does harm your performance. And then also the other thing that it will do is it will lean on brand search. So if your name is, if your brand was England football, for example, I won't talk about the match last night. For those that watched it, at least we didn't lose. But it'll basically go for the cheap conversion. So within Performance Max, you can't put keywords in, but you can see the terms that you're showing up for. And this example here is a bedroom campaign, and you can see rather than showing for bedding or mattresses, it was really just putting in the brand name. I've changed the brand name in for client confidentiality, but you can see this one. Most of the revenue is coming from brand. And that can be quite a difficult dilemma as well to what to do with that. I did get the client asking why when they search their brand, the bedroom ads were always showing up, and this was the reason. And then this recommendation for Google to target all of your products. So which is not a bad idea in theory if you've got a Performance Max several campaigns and there's some products that aren't in those, you could put them in kind of a catch-all campaign with low bids, and then there's low risk. But it's every campaign you go in is just wants you to add all of the products. It almost forgets that you've got other campaigns. It will tell you need to add more, add them all. And I suppose that will potentially increase your clicks, but it'll also increase the money going to Google if that's the ad platform. Microsoft Ads is similar as well with the recommendations. And yes, there's a little angry monster. I don't know. Maybe it makes me a little bit angry, but if you want an interesting read, by the way, if you look for the recent news articles that were about how the lawsuit in the USA about how Google manipulates the cost per click, that's really interesting. I'll try and provide a link after this webinar as well if you need that one. So the other thing is you can be running campaigns for a while, and what you can find is the performance will plateau. So if you're looking always for year-on-year growth, if you've got a seasonal business, say you sell sports equipment, it's going to do more popular in the summer potentially. What you can find is it's hard to get that growth throughout the year just by having the campaign structured in a way that's just always the same. So I think that's why you need to kind of switch it up and do things differently and try different things. Not everything will work, and what I suggested in this deck will work with some clients and will work with some campaigns. So you really need to just test it and understand what that test brings you by looking at the results. So how do we group the campaigns? There's so many different ways to slice the cake, to use that analogy. You can go down the route of cutting it too small. When I don't know if you go to a kid's birthday party, I've been to a few of my kids, and the parents have a massive cake and they cut you a tiny little slice. Not that I'm greedy, but it doesn't really feed the Google smart bidding algorithm. So if you divide it too small, it doesn't work as well. So just bear that one in mind. So there are 2 shopping options, as you probably know already, within a Google Ads account. You've got Performance Max, which is the all singing, all dancing ad campaign platform that Google would like you to use. So you can add in assets and images, your product feed, videos, and then you've still got standard shopping, which I don't know how long this is going to be remaining for, but the traditional old school approach to advertising with standard shopping was to use the different tier levels and have a branded campaign and a generic campaign, and then control the branded terms using a negative keyword list on the generic campaign. So you'd exclude maybe Nike, and then that would push through to the brand campaign. So that still works, but probably not as well as it used to. So it's good to kind of rely on both of those. So you primarily I spend on Performance Max, but I might have a catch-all campaign for some products that I'm not too concerned with for standard shopping as well. And then to make things a little bit more complicated, you can play the game with Google and add all the assets. So you can obviously add your product feed, that's the same. You can add the images, the headlines, the descriptions, and the videos. So you can set up the PMAX with all the assets, and it'll appear on Gmail Discovery, YouTube Shopping, Display, or you can do it without assets, and that performance is similar to standard shopping. You'll get little messages within the campaign that's saying your asset group performance or asset group is rated as poor, but typically you'll find that the ROAS can be better, but your reach, so the amount of clicks and impressions you get, is lower. So it's about just trying to test both and see which one works for you. Depends on your budget as well. And you can also, as I'm going to go on to, use scripts within Google Ads to help you see where the campaigns with performance max assets, where they're serving. So it will split out how much you're spending on video, how much you're spending on search ads and shopping placement. So it's not that you can necessarily control it, but it gives you that insights. If you find your return on ad spend takes a nosedive and your exposure on video has gone up, then you've got a good idea of why that is, and you can make some changes to either pause that campaign and do something differently. So there's a great way of identifying your best and worst performers. You can manually crunch the data, and there's quite a new feature to, I think, is it ChatGPT or one of the AI platforms, where you can upload a PDF of your exported spreadsheet and get it to do the analysis, and it's scary how quickly it'll come back to you. So that's one way. But as I mentioned before, there's scripts you can use. So there's a Flow Boost labelizer script, which is great. There's a free version and a paid version. I've not used the paid version personally, but I definitely would like to check it out. I think it's 300 euros. I'm not exactly sure, but do take a look. The paid version has some extra features. The basic one will give you enough data, but it is kind of the bells and whistles with the paid version. As with anything, you get the extras. And then there's various feed tools. The one that I'm currently using a lot of is Product Hero. So that also does comparison shopping services clicks. So your ads won't run through Google on shopping. They'll run through a third party, and the promise is that you'll get 20% cheaper clicks or an increased visibility. So that's $99 euros a month, and you can get some price comparison data in there as well, which is a good thing. And then Google Sheets with Google Analytics add-on, so you can use that to kind of pull in data, which is great. And then there's the third-party data connectors, so you can basically connect your Google Ads, your Meta Ads, your Google Analytics, using these things, and just then output it to something like Looker Studio to create your reports. And then there's BigQuery, which is Google's kind of preferred platform for data storage. You'll see within Google Analytics 4, it's kind of mentioned as a way to store your Google Analytics 4 data, because I think that's only retained for about 14 months as well. So this is the Flow Boost thing in a bit more detail. So it's quite good. It buckets products based into a Google Sheet, and you get a summary with graphs and charts. And this example here is like 15 days worth of data. And I mentioned earlier about the 10% of products. So the products that are doing well, that are getting sales at index and near index, so they're near the target. And you can see that's got the most revenue, the best ROAS. That ROAS is good as well. But alarmingly, the under index. So these are the products that just trundle along. There's lots of them. They'll get the occasional click. They spend most of the money and lose you money overall within a 14-day window period. There's another way to look at this, because obviously some of these products people click on and they won't necessarily buy at that point. They might buy later in the month, or they'll be adding audience volume to the audience list, so for remarketing that you can use with the other products. So I would say don't cut them all out, but it helps to understand what's going on in the account. So overall, for this 14-day example, I think the target was 600 or 6 ROAS. You always find that some people will do it decimals, and others will just do it the full without 600%. So it's close to target, but it would be even closer to target if I spent less on the under-indexed product. So you can also use pivot tables with the data to within that it bits into Google Sheet, and it will create the same table that I've got on the screen, but you can then click on it and it will show you the exact products. So you can drill down right there. It's a bit more useful. So this is how it works. You've got various fields within the script. So that's your target ROAS. You can do it for target CPA, but typically I do target ROAS, and you can say how many impressions you need, how the data range, and then how all the different bands are calculated. So yeah, take a look, definitely. And then it's really quite easy to use the data in the Google Sheet in Merchant Center. So you can connect it as a supplemental feed, and then just connect and then use rules to kind of take this value from my Google Sheet and set it as a custom label. And then when that populates into Google Ads, you can start to group the campaigns. So there are issues with any dynamic product labeling. One of the things that I find is that if your spend dips or there's a bit of seasonality, you can find the products will just move between the campaigns. They'll go from being index or near index, and then suddenly, the conversion volumes might drop, and they'll just go into the other campaign or have no label. And you'll find the reverse. Some products that are under index, which means you should spend less on them, you put them into that campaign, and the click volume drops to such a level that they then start to rise into the other categories. So that's one of the challenges. And then every time the products move around, you can get the smart bidding learning phase, which if you've run performance ads before, means that smart bidding will kind of go into a period where it's trying to work out increased click volume. Typically what happens while it kind of gets enough conversion data to be able to optimize towards again. And then sales products can be a little bit harder to push if you've got products going dynamically in and out. And the bad products or the terrorists, that's a bit extreme, but you'll always find within some account there's products that get clicks, get served by Google or even Meta or Microsoft ads if you're running those, that they just don't sell. Sometimes you'll have a novelty image on it and people will just see it on Shopper and go, that's really looks really interesting, or why is it that much? So you still need to exclude those. You can't just rely on this. And then the other challenge when I've been trying to do profit bidding myself is using the data is that the product clicked on is not always the product sold if you look at the Google Ads data. So that's something to bear in mind. So you've also got the modeled conversions as well. So all platforms are modeling data due to the data loss for privacy and consent. So your data isn't as exact as it used to be, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, you can use Google Sheets as well. So this is an example here. It's a little bit grayed out. You can see I've installed this add-on by going to the extensions add-ons menu, and then when you go back to the menu and run it, it brings up a configurator, and then you can pick the field. So this one I've picked out item revenue, items purchased, item ID, and the session source median. So I've taken the data from Google Analytics because you can see the exact revenue of a SKU. So it's a little bit more interesting. And then you can put that into Google Sheet as a column. And then when you're looking at the data, you can start to understand it a bit more. And that's automatic, so you don't have to run the reports. So that's quite useful. Yeah, so this is it in practice. So you can add, this is the revenue data that I've got from the Google Analytics add-on. And then it's in another sheet, and then I've used a VLOOKUP with an if error thing to just get a blank And then obviously price is everything as well. So your products, you'll find your products won't sell if you're not competitive. So you really need to try and get to the bottom of that. So you can, is my internet all right? Oh, okay. So yeah, so you'll find you can
Hi,
get.
Pete. Sorry, it just froze a little bit. Do you mind repeating the last slide? Just the slide you're on again, please. It just stopped for a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, saw the dreaded internet unstable thing. So basically, it's important to understand how competitive you are on price, and there's various tools you can do that. So one of them is the Product Hero, one I mentioned earlier. There's plenty of the market, but that's got a price competitiveness feature. It will take the data from Google Merchant Center, and you can then use that in a Google Sheet again. There's the Flow Boost labelizer, the paid version does it. You can try and connect to the Merchant Center API if you're clever and got a developer. There's also third-party price scraping tools. I do know people who've written their own Google App scripts to scrape the data from the website and put it in a Google Sheet. So there's lots of different options, but I think the main thing is just understand where your prices are compared to the competition. And you'll see there is a correlation between price on your clicks and sales. So you can see on the left, average category data. You can see garden furniture more expensive than the competition. When the price came down, more sales. There's also the whole weather factor as well. I think garden furniture should be doing well this weekend with a bit of luck, but just understanding what's happening can really help you inform your decision on how to manage your campaigns. And then the same concept really. So you've got the average category, the categories, and then you can see the impact of impressions and clicks with that price competitiveness. So you know that garden furniture became cheaper on that particular period, and the weather's also changed with barbecues. So you can really start to dial into what's going on. And it's quite easy to set up. All you need to do is just get that price competitive data into Google Sheets, link it with Looker Studio with your Google Ads data, and then you can just plot it out if you like Looker Studio. And I've not really covered all of the things you can do with splitting out products, but there's so many different ways to do it. I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you've got minimum conversion volumes, you need to think about minimum conversion volumes within a 30-day period. So don't split it too much. So this time of year, garden furniture should be doing well. So you've got that as a factor to kind of structure your campaign. So think about seasonality and a kind of anticipated demand. So if you've got products that you know are going to sell, that's definitely a way to structure the account. And then if you find you've got products that are really selling like hotcakes, there's an argument for not bidding as aggressively. So increasing your ROAS targets on products that are selling naturally anyway, because all you'll do is end up paying more to sell things that are really doing well already. So there's ways you can get that data in and use it within your account. And then of course you've got the sales events. So if you're running Black Friday ads or summer sale, there's a lot you can do there. So you essentially need to make sure that the campaigns are structured in a way that allow the product sale to go well. So what I'd always recommend is, if you know what products are going to be on sale, put them in a campaign weeks before the event. Just get a data on them within Google Ads and give the system time to kind of try them out. And so when you do go into full sale, it won't be in such a learning period, or it will take less time to get the results that you want. I was finding that short-term sales are harder within Google Ads to actually manage, because you'll have a spike in clicks and then it will drop down again, and you've got less time to make decisions and to optimize. So if you can run the sale for a bit longer, it will give you more insights on what's working well. And then you've obviously got stock levels. So I think this kind of ties in with the size availability options point on the screen. You've basically got, if you've got, if you sell a greenhouse, for example, and there's a variety of colors, and the least popular color is still the one in stock and everything else is sold out, you may well just want to take that out of the feed or out of the campaigns, because when users arrive on that product page, they're less likely to convert. And it's the same with clothing. If you go onto a clothing page and you've only got really large or really small sizes, and they're not the most popular, you'll find the conversion rate and the cost per sale will go up. And then the other thing you can do within Performance Max, particularly, you can exclude your existing customers. So what that then allows you to do is tell the system, I want to optimize for new customers. So you can even set an amount that you're willing to pay on top of a normal conversion to go and secure new customers for you. So you know why that makes sense, because if you get a new customer, they're likely to buy from you multiple times. So it's worth spending a bit more to acquire them from the outset. Just not necessarily having one Performance Max campaign focused on ROAS and never going after understanding what the new customer versus returning customer split is. There's also audiences you can use from Google Ads and Google Analytics to kind of show you who the returning customers are. And you could even, there's lots of different things you can do with the splits. And then if you've got new product launches and they just go into those automated dynamic campaigns based on performance, you might find they don't get exposure. So you need to pick them out and work out how you're going to give them some exposure and visibility and chance to shine. And then return and refund rates. If you've got a product that looks great on the site and people buy it, but the quality is not there or something's not right with it, and that keeps getting returned, it's really important to try and understand where those products are, and you can then treat them accordingly. So those are just a few of the different ways to segment the products. I have seen a webinar recently where somebody's attempting to use all the different ways you can split out products and score them. So they've got all the data in a kind of a Google sheet, and then they give them points. If it's achieving above target ROAS, it gets points, and if it's got high stock, it gets more points. And yeah, so cumulatively, the sum total of the points is then used as a label within the campaign, and you can put all your good performing products in one campaign, and then the ones with the lower points a little bit down. So you're focusing your budget on the ones that scored well based on your criteria. So yeah, I think that's really good idea to test that one as well. So I guess this is where I'm focused at with my clients at the moment, just thinking beyond return on ad spend. So I think you really need to kind of go beyond that. And the reason why ROAS is problematic is if you've set the target at 700%, it can limit your reach. The platform will continually just go after that target, and you'll find within the campaigns it will say you should lower your ROAS target. So yeah, it can limit account growth, and if you're not thinking about new customer acquisition and the kind of lifetime value of your customers, then you might find that if you were bidding a bit lower for new customers, a bit lower ROAS, then it would pay off in the longer term. And then you'll find that some products may have more margin. So I've done this work with quite a few clients recently, and you'll see a few examples on this on the next few slides. But you'll find there's more products than their required ROAS suggests. So they tell you they want 600%, and you look at the data and the margin on the different products, you can find there'll be some products that you can go way below that and you'd still get healthy profit, and then there's others that you would need to get 1200% ROAS to even break even. So it's about digging into the data and then seeing what really is going on with each product. And then if you set the wrong ROAS, of course, based on not understanding the margin, you're going to lose money, which nobody likes doing. And then simply by not being present, if you've got the wrong ROAS target and it's always high and it's always at that point which you think is the right ROAS, you're not going to necessarily show up. So you might find over time, and like over a couple of years or year on year, the growth isn't there because your customers, your exposure and your impressions are down and then people are just shopping somewhere else. So how do you do profit bidding then? So there's the announcement that Google made at Marketing Live in May that it's coming into Performance Max. It will be something you can actually optimize on within the campaign. You'll be able to set a target profit within the campaign. They've not actually shared the full details yet, but I've got a very sneaky suspicion that they'll be using the Merchant Center next, which is their second version of Merchant Center, or at least the next one's coming out. And I think you'll be able to upload cost data in there. My theory is that they won't necessarily want you to be doing development on two different platforms, so they might make that a new feature to kind of encourage adoption. So you can wait till July. It said starting in the next quarter, so it could be any time from July onwards, depending on where you are in their kind of rollout list. So if you're a bit impatient, I guess you could start now, and I think you should start now, because one of the requirements to doing the profit bidding is to calculate the cost data and upload it into Google. So what you need to do is to try and work that out now. And then once you've got that cost data, you can start structuring campaigns based on the margin and profit. So the hardest bit of this is definitely calculating the kind of the cost data. And there's a little funny monster in dollar notes, I think. So yes, I have a confession. We have lots of fugglers in my house. I think it started last year, and now it's like a comedy gift. So there's a few. If you go back and watch the webinar, they're on various slides. If you don't know what a fuggler is, Google it. They're quite frightening. So anyway, enough about that. So how do you calculate cost of goods? So you basically need to look at all of the product costs. So how much does it cost to acquire the product? Look at your shipping costs. People can forget this. I did have a client that sold mobile phones in Europe, and they got the shipping cost calculations so wrong that they realized they hadn't made any profit. So it's an important one. If you're not making a profit on the shipping, take that off. And then obviously there's the VAT, and then the hard one, I suppose, is the staff costs. But at least if you do the first three, you've got an idea. And then if you have a kind of a benchmark percentage of revenue from ads as a percentage of your overall sales, you could start to go down that route. Talk to your finance guys about that one. And then once you've got the data, you can add it for each SKU within your website as a variable. You can add it in if you've got a product inventory management platform. You can add it in there. And the smart way to do it is to try and get this information so it's kind of dynamic. So if you know all of the costs, but it's just the cost of the shipping and the product acquisition that changes every time the product acquisition costs change or the shipping cost changes, just make sure that's updated. And then the variable that you've put into your feed isn't static. There's nothing worse than having the wrong information and realizing that a product's become there's less margin on it, and your data's out of date. That's kind of disastrous. So yeah, and then once you've got that cost, or COGS as sometimes called, we love abbreviations, you can put that into your feed once it's available on your website. You can put it into the feed very easily. You could even then use Google Sheets if you're kind of outputting from the site. That's another way. So once you've got the cost data, you can then add it to your campaigns, and then just from having the cost data, you can use Google Sheets to calculate the margin or profit dynamically based on that cost field. You can do it in Merchant Center as well if you're not very good with Google Sheets. So there's rules. You know what the price is in Merchant Center. You know what the cost is. You can do, if you know what the calculations are, you can just get it to create variables, and then you can use them in the campaigns. So the other thing is just to visualize the data as well, because it really does help. So you can understand here on the kind of left-hand side, you've got products by category, and we can see the average margin amount, and you can see the number of items in category and see what the average margin amount is and the volume of products. So the one on the bottom is sofa, so there's quite a lot of products and quite a decent margin in those. So that does make you think that there's potential to group those together. If you're thinking about the smart bidding and the minimum 15 conversions, if you make smarter groupings, you'll find the campaign to do better. And then you can look at the margin by products, so you can see where's the biggest margin in the products. So you've got most of the products with this one with below £10 margin. So you've got to be a little bit careful with those. So you might have high profit as a percentage, but the margin amount is low. So you've got to think about how you're grouping those together. And then you can also start to understand where the profit sits. So one concept that I've kind of been working on is that if you understand what the break-even ROAS is, so what would you need to spend on Google Ads to just simply make zero money, which sounds counterintuitive, but it means you're not making a loss. If you understand where the break-even point is, you can push your campaigns as hard as you like, as long as you don't go below the negative. But what you can do is you can calculate what would double the break-even be. So if I sold twice the ROAS that's break-even, what would the profit be based on that? And then that gives you lots of data about, you can see the blue highlighted products there. I've got some products that I can be more aggressive with, because I know I don't necessarily have to go to kind of 800, 900% if that's the target. I can be go lower ROAS and increase visibility and sales. So you can start to use this data to more smartly structure your campaigns. So covered a lot there. So yeah, just going to give you a summary of the takeaways then. But I think I would say just whatever you're doing within shopping or Performance Max, make sure that you do test different things. So my takeaway tips are just analyze the products that you've got. Look at the performance using tools. You might even be able to, as I mentioned, upload a PDF of a spreadsheet into ChatGPT and get it to do analysis for you. Yeah, so there are different ways to save time. Yeah, and then you use some of the scripts that you've got access to, the free scripts. It does sound a little bit daunting, but if you can follow basic instructions in Google Ads, you just go into the scripts interface, copy the code, paste it in, add a Google Sheet link that's unique to you, and just change the variables. It really is quite easy to do. And then just make sure once you've got that data, you try and visualize it. So just do use Looker Studio or any other reporting platforms that you've got to try and create graphs, not just of the last month. Look at the current month, look at the current week, just see, really drill down into what's going on. And then once you've got all those data points, so whether it's the product velocity or the stock levels or the amount of revenue in Google Analytics from Google Ads in the last 90 days, try and get that into your Google Sheets, and then you can start to even create graphs within there that show you what's going on. You can use that Google Sheet where you're putting all the data in it within Looker Studio as well, and really help to visualize the stuff. Yeah, and then just decide how you're going to divide the products. There's no right and wrong way. There's always just testing something different, but the wrong way to do it is to set it up and leave it, and not try and iterate and do make it better or try different things. So always I would suggest, if you've got the opportunity, if you've got like a test budget for your advertising activity, test new things and just don't be afraid to kind of branch out and try something different. Obviously don't do it at your main sale event, because if it doesn't go as well as you'd hoped, then that can be a difficult conversation. Yeah, and then just remember to manually exclude anything that's not doing well. So you can either just create a rule in Merchant Center to just change something to out of stock, or take it out of your feed, or exclude it in the campaigns. And yeah, profit is definitely the smarter approach for bidding within Google Ads, and I'm really excited to see what the new Performance Max feature looks like next month. So get your cost data ready. I think it really will make a difference. And don't be afraid to kind of test. test, and just be proactive. So rather than just using the labelizer script, the flow boost one, don't just use that all the time, because I guess that's kind of reactive, isn't it? Because you're almost using data to analyze what you've already spent. But if you're proactive as well, by thinking about seasonality and sales and everything, you can really push things forward. And just to throw in another Fugler image here, particular ugly one. Yeah, just don't forget about using your common sense, not automating and just looking at fully automate, but just looking at the bad products. If you look over a long time, you might find some gremlins in the system. So that's me. Any